if we can narrow those down, those options, you still have autonomy. You still, we still need to be able to have our choices. But when you have too many, really have no options at all. So the platform is to help entrepreneurs really narrow down those options and point them in the right direction.
Happy holidays, everyone. Time is running out to join our winter season of coaching and accountability groups. Don't miss our next registration event this Thursday, December 28th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 Eastern. This holiday season, give yourself the gift of joining what I'm pretty sure is the first and longest running group coaching program on this side of the internet. We've been growing with the ADHD community since 2014, and we'd love to have you join us. Get ready to make 2024 your best year yet. Winter sessions start Thursday, January 11th for our orientation, so don't wait. Go now to coachingrewired.com, add your name to the interest list, and start pre-registering today. That's coachingrewired.com. And if you want to do it, but you can't do it right now, you can't get to the website right now, set a reminder to go to coachingrewired.com. That's coachingrewired.com for the most up-to-date information about registration, section schedules, and availability. Go to coachingrewired.com. Now, on with the show. Welcome back to another episode of ADHD reWired. Today's guest is Donavan. And I'm just lost your last name. Donavan
Robinson.
Today's guest is Donavan Robinson. Donavan is a father, husband, proud Red River Métis. Did I say it right? Métis?
Métis, yeah.
Métis citizen. Donavan has embarked on a diverse entrepreneurial journey. He founded Vantage, a marketing agency, ventured into hospitality with a Little Pizza Heaven and the Goodwill Social Club, and supported local artisans through Made Here. Diagnosed with ADHD later in life, he now focuses on providing tailored resources for entrepreneurs, advocating for a personalized approach to business success. His career reflects his passion and involvement in the community, emphasizing that success varies for each person. He champions neurodiverse entrepreneurs, encouraging them to find their unique path in business and in life. Donavan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So one of the things that I thought was really interesting when we had our pre-interview a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the idea of serial entrepreneurship. And you told me kind of right out of the gate that you really don't like that. So I'm curious for you to talk a little bit about what do you do? And then why don't you like the term serial entrepreneur?
Yeah, well, I had an article written about me recently, and they used the phrase serial entrepreneur, and I didn't like it. I don't know why. Maybe the term serial, I don't know. It didn't have a nice ring to it, but I feel like being an entrepreneur, it's synonymous with that, because you're always wanting to do something new, innovative, and you're constantly thinking and moving on to the next thing. So that's why I like to separate entrepreneurship from business owner.
Yeah, talk about that, because there is a difference.
Yeah, well, I think a good example is, you could be an entrepreneur and maybe not have a business. And so that's been my case. Well, I've always had somewhat of a business somewhere, but I enjoy starting them, coming up with the ideas and then innovating them. But I want to work with people that can actually run the business owner, and manage it and do the day-to-day, or at least run it. Because I realize that's where my weakness is. When I get into the part of running the business, that's when things start to fail. And I also get bored easily, right? So,
which makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
When did you realize that success can be achieved through focusing on starting stuff and then handing it off, selling it, and starting something new? What did it come from? A pain point of starting maybe your first business or two and getting stuck or bored, or what happened?
Well, I always thought that if I'm starting a business, I needed to be involved in it 100%, or at least I had to be there quite often, or a big part of that. And as I've done multiple businesses, I realized where that weakness or where that breaking point is. But I've been very successful in creating pretty unique places here in Manitoba. And so I just want to keep doing that, but finding amazing people that can take it on and run it and do the things and make it what the initial idea is. And I've been lucky enough to partner with some amazing people that were able to do that. The Goodwill Social Club, for example, was one, it was an idea, but I couldn't have made it nearly as successful in a brand perspective as it was.
What
And
is the
so
Goodyear Social Club?
yeah, the Goodwill Social Club is a live music venue, which unfortunately we are closing that business.
Mm.
It's hospitality, hospitality struggling in general, right? So we've been around 10 years, but when we started it, there was a place for it at the time. It was amazing because we had, I think, 8 people that were on that ownership group, and in music or hospitality or something that just made it very unique. So we had, underground DJs and Juno award-winning sound technician and people who were in that scene. And most of our staff at the time were in music and touring. And so it was a really cool place. And above it was rehearsal space and some bands that are well known now that went through there. And so it's pretty cool.
How'd you decide to get involved like with that? Like,
Yeah. So my kind of journey to that was almost a domino effect. So I started this design studio, which was Vantage. Then by chance, I started a print shop because there was a print shop down the hall that went out of business. We were using them. So we bought a printer. People would come to us thinking that we were that print shop. So we said, oh, well, we'll do your printing. And so then we had this print shop. A local hospitality and bar owner wanted to invest in that print shop. And so he offered me ownership into a bar, which was next to a pizza place, which that pizza place which was Little Pizza Heaven. And so I ended up investing in that. I rebranded them for shares. And I know this is a long story, but the person who took over this space that is now the Goodwill wanted to put a Little Pizza Heaven in there, and then asked if we wanted to create a live music venue out of it, or at least do something with it. So I reached out to a few people, said, hey, there's this opportunity. They want to put the Little Pizza Heaven in there. So all of that was a chain reaction to creating the Goodwill Social Club, which was pretty cool.
that's fun. As you were kind of talking about, one thing like leading to the other, leading to the other, I was thinking of the book When You Give a Mouse a Cookie. It's like when you give an entrepreneur an idea,
Yeah.
it's like you're in there, and then it's like, ooh, what about that? Ooh, what about that? So it sounds like your brain like sees ideas and opportunities.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
So how do you say no so you don't like get inundated with the overwhelm of every good idea?
I don't. I think
Oh,
that's the I think if it's something that I'm learning a bit now that I have to say, okay, I really want to do that, but is that the best decision today? And I think I didn't do that before. And so some good things came out of that and a lot of bad things came out of that. Right. So I have kids now. I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. So those decisions have to be thought out a little bit more. My wife would probably say that I still need to work on this because I'm really jumping and bouncing around from idea to idea. But I think that's why having people to partner with that can really pull that in. I have another business partner who does that. So I go really fast and I'm way ahead. And so he has to kind of pull me back and catch up too. So I think we work really well together. And we're now working on another project, which is the project to support entrepreneurs.
now how much of that relationship with this business partner are like in the conversations that you have is kind of very meta, like where you're talking about each other's like tendencies and process, and because I think being in business with someone else, it's you don't want to have a clone of yourself. Like that's for most entrepreneurs, will say that's the last thing they want, right? They want someone who's kind of has a very complementary or opposite skill set. What are those conversations like? So there's an understanding of where you're each coming from.
For me, it's as soon as I started to learn more about ADHD, which then led me to learning more about myself, I was able to then see, okay, this is where I'm good at things and this is where I'm not. And I found somebody that's really good. We're the odd couple. Like if you remember that TV show, The Odd Couple, that's us. But we work really well together. And I think there's a level of respect there where we understand each other's strengths and we play off of that. I probably drive him crazy most of the time, but I feel like he has a lot of respect for what I can do, and he's always kind of saw that, which has been great. He's just got this mind of he can create something from a brand perspective and a marketing perspective that's just so unique. And usually when I see it for the first time, sometimes I'm like, I don't know, but that's like, okay, if I am doing that, that means it's probably good because he's doing something that's so different. And so he was the first person I reached out to when we started the Goodwill Social Club.
Hmm. You made this comment, or you said that you probably drive him crazy. So is that a story that you're telling yourself, or have you ever had a conversation with him to actually explicitly ask him that?
We've had those conversations. I drive him crazy. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
confirmed this story.
I have a really I like because of I have a really good sense of when I'm talking to somebody, and maybe sometimes I overthink it, but I can tell when I'm probably getting on their nerves to an extent, right? And so I can pull myself back. But with him, we kind of just it took a while. I think sometimes I can see him just slow down, right? But he knows now, don't slow down. He even said the other day, a couple of weeks ago, he's like, yeah, don't slow down. Because he gets it now, right? He gets where my advantage is. And it's just going as fast as I can and just trying to break things. As long as it's not going to overall destroy something, I'm over here in the bushes climbing trees and picking berries, and he's on the trail making sure we're going in the right direction.
You know, it's interesting. So I'm thinking about this sort of these two ideas of like ownership and responsibility. So when we can own what we are good at, as well as understand what we're not good at, and just really like jump into the deep end of the stuff we're good at and say like, yeah, I know there's this other stuff that needs to happen. And it sounds like you also balance that responsibility piece where you're like, I don't want to touch that, but I also know that stuff needs to happen. Right. And so you're bringing in people to do the stuff that you don't want to do and that you're not great at. And I think that's hard for a lot of people with ADHD who are entrepreneurs. They think they have to do it all. This I might be talking about myself a little bit. And it's hard because it's like whether it's the communication piece of delegation and sort of communicating vision. So how do you do the communicating with others around like, here's what I need help with, here's what I'm good at, and that delegation piece?
Well, that's still a challenge for me. I
Okay.
won't lie. And I think I also have my wife is she's also my partner in life and in business as well.
Mm,
And it took really understanding myself to understand and that. And there's times where it's like I have to really understand that she's running the business and I can't just go and do all these crazy things because they don't always work. I'd say probably most of them don't. But when one does, it's like, okay, right. And then I'm like, see, but she's like, well, what about the five that didn't, right? But sometimes those need to happen. So I'm still in that process of really learning what to hone in, what to pull back on. And that's still a challenge for me. But
mm,
the excitement and the exciting part is talking to entrepreneurs who may have a similar story and really are in those stages of trying to do it all. Because even when you start a business, it's hard to have partners, and you have to have partners that really understand your role and their role, and that's hard to find. So new partners, it might not happen. Then it's money, right? Then you can't always. There's things you have to do because you can't pay for those things in the beginning, so you do have to take them on. And so that's what I'm kind of learning is what am I going to have to do if I'm starting this thing that I know I'm going to fail at because I won't make that, or is there somebody that can help me in that process? So those are really the two things that I kind of look at when starting something new. Sometimes I do put those blinders on because I'm like, I really want to do it.
So one of the things that when you're thinking about um, My brain just went in like 10 different directions and it just got my brain twisted in a knot. So what we're going to do, we're going to just leave that in and we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I'm going to organize my thoughts in a moment and we'll continue this, this conversation. So we will be right back. Since 2014, ADHD reWired has been helping people grow through community. And nothing embodies this more than our award-winning 10-week intensive coaching and accountability groups. We just wrapped up our 34th season of coaching groups, and with 1,134 alumni who have gone through one of our 94 groups over the course of 34 seasons, one thing is for certain. When we are in a supportive, growth-minded community, we really can do hard things.
When I think of success, I now think of the bravery that it takes to live a life with our condition unapologetically and with compassion. I think that the default mode that we're made to feel in society is to just feel shame and just feel all of these things that have been attributed to us all our lives. But I think realizing now that there's a lot of courage and bravery in vulnerability and sharing what you're struggling with, and then having the courage to advocate for yourself and just live unapologetically.
Being misunderstood by others or not understanding ourselves can be so painful. I know this because this was me, and I created ADHD reWired because I don't want people to feel alone, helpless, or hopeless. We do not have to go through life being misunderstood.
Connection and support are everything. There's nothing like having a group of people where it's safe to talk about your struggles, to share the things that are hardest, to not be judged for those things, and to actually be embraced and helped for that.
It's the instant support, encouragement, validation, connection, and camaraderie from people who just get it.
I know I don't need to tell you that ADHD is real and that its challenges are real because you live it every day. I just really want you to know that you really don't have to face any of this alone.
This group of strangers, we got together and we came into this thing thinking we were our own special kind of broken. But we grew together, uplifted each other, and saw how we're not broken and we're not alone. And we built this beautiful community of support and love. I saw this group and I knew this was my place.
So if you want to learn how to live better with ADHD and you're ready to take your ADHD management to the next level with a group of amazing people who truly understand ADHD and the challenges that we face, then join us for our next season of coaching and accountability groups.
If you are thinking about joining this group, I'd highly encourage it. There was something amazingly special about growing with a group of people who all had similar struggles as I did. It was encouraging, it was safe, it was inspiring, and above all, it was healing.
I know life can get busy, especially with the holidays, but when are you going to finally start prioritizing what you need for you?
And this group is like a scaffolding for us to move from intention to action. And the scaffolding's above the muck and the stories and everything else. If you have a scaffolding in a building, you're renovating. You could be renovating or renewing it. And that building is us. For me, the building project is trying to open the windows, increase the size of the windows. And when the size of the windows increase, more light gets in. And just as importantly, more of our light gets out.
Go to coachingrewired.com and click on that big button at the top of the page and add your name to our interest list. And then keep an eye out in your email for our upcoming registration events and other time-sensitive information about our coaching groups. As so many of our alumni would say, it is hard to put in words the true power of community. Come grow with us at coachingrewired.com. But don't wait, we're filling up and time is running out. That's coachingrewired.com. All right, so we are back. So Donavan, you have started a number of different businesses. Some have been successful, some have had their periods of success, some have not. You said you were diagnosed at age 45. Yeah. How old are you right now?
46.
So the ink is kind of still drying on the diagnosis. Okay. What led you to the diagnosis?
So a family member was going into high school, and my sister was talking about it. And I was connected to a school called Met School, which is short for Metropolitan School. Here in Winnipeg, it's under Big Picture Learning, which started out in the United States. We're in Canada here. And the school does internships from Tuesdays to Thursdays. It's high school. So they connect them with real businesses and entrepreneurs and business
Cool.
owners. And they do internships. And so I was doing this for quite a few years prior to this. And they asked me to speak at the school one time, and I got a tour of it. And I was kind of blown away by the way that this was structured, and thought, and this was before I knew I had ADHD. And I was like, wow, this would have been game changer for me if I was in high school, because the kids are allowed to choose what they want to learn. They still have to take the regular curriculum, but they're able to say, okay, maybe I want to try this out, try this. And they have advisors and instructors rather than teachers.
Hmm.
And so it was just a really unique school. So I asked I'll say another family member to see if she wanted to go to that high school. And they asked her, it was my sister. They're okay with me talking about this, but so I'll just say my sister. And so they said, "Oh, why don't you get her tested for ADHD? She might have ADHD." So, as my sister was kind of looking at the symptoms, she said, "This sounds like me." So I started looking at the symptoms, and this sounds like me. And so we all got diagnosed. And then a little bit later, I had a kind of one of those episodes, which was just like a complete breakdown, because all of this, I didn't know. I knew about ADHD, I guess, how most people know, which isn't very much. And I started to learn a little bit, but it was just like, oh, this is like kind of a relief, but also, oh, this is why all these things have happened in my life. And a lot of that just came flooding in. And that's why then I had started my own podcast called Shingles at 40, because I ended up getting shingles,
At
oddly
40.
enough, when all this stress was happening. I was on a vacation with my family, and I thought I was having some heart problems. And I'm like, I went into I was in Canmore. I went into the hospital, and she's like, "You're fine. Your heart's fine." She said, "Are you stressed?" And she had asked if I had any like rash on my arm and stuff. So I did. And she said, "You have shingles." And then she said, "What's stressing you out?" And so it was kind of the catalyst for me saying, all of this is happening, and I'm realizing all this stuff. And, I wasn't happy at work. And so I ended up really diving into what this was. And then I learned about the genetics of it, and how I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. And I thought, whoa, what do I need to do? And so for me, I'm very thankful that I was able to go through a lot of those things in my life, because I really understand it. But so early in my kid's life as well, because I'm learning how just simple, like losing my patience with them, can affect them. And so I really have to watch and learn. And I'm not perfect, but if I do lose my patience, it's immediate. I'm sorry. Wasn't your fault. Dad didn't know how. Me and my son and daughter have a little saying, "Dad, you blew your stack." So if I lose my cool or something, it's like, "You lost your cool, you blew your stack." So for them, I think it's almost like a little safety thing. And as a kid, a lot of us were, your parents yell at you, things like that. You don't think it's a big deal, but that happens day over day.
Yeah.
That's traumatic, right?
Yes, it
And
is.
so, yeah. And my parents did the best they could. They don't have the resources that we have today, the access to it. And they were also, living with this disorder, whether they believe it or not, they were, right? So I think I'm very lucky to be able to be in the position I am in today. So that's why I want to talk about it as much as possible and share my story, so that maybe somebody can say, wait, this sounds like me, and their life can change too, and hopefully break those cycles with their kids.
How have things changed for you since that diagnosis?
I left an agency I was part of for 20 years, and really just dropped that to pursue helping my wife with her business, and then moving into helping entrepreneurs really understand, if they are neurodivergent, how we can move ahead with that, and really just find their passion and that purpose. Because for me, that's my passion and that's my purpose. Because I realized, I look back at my life, what did I enjoy the most? And it was having conversations with people and saying, "Oh, you should talk to this person, or you should go over here or try this." And sharing knowledge just made me happy.
Mm.
every day. So that's just what I want to do is share my knowledge.
And I love that so right now in our coaching program and in our alumni community, we're going through the yearly planning process. And one of the things we ask sort of in the beginning of this process is like, what makes you feel like alive? Like, what do you love? Then we come back to it in a few weeks and say, after they've kind of brain dumped all these different domains of their life and the things they want to do over the next year, they go back and look at what you put in your responses to those questions. Are those anywhere reflected in various domains of your life? And I tell people that, because if not, you're not done with the yearly planning process, right? Because it's like finding the stuff that you love. As people with ADHD, like, we don't have the luxury of not loving what we do if we want to live a life where we feel joy, aren't constantly beyond stressed and miserable, right? It's like, yeah, can we do it? Yeah. Do I recommend it? Not for a minute. So you've kind of realized what you really like to do. I'm hearing a lot of sort of pretty quick self-acceptance and sort of ownership of just who you are. Am I picking up on that correctly?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
Which
still, still a ways to go, but yeah, for sure.
It's me too. It's so funny because like there'll be moments where I'll be like, yeah, I'm totally like fully self-accepting. Like, and then I'll like say something out loud with like my partner. She's like, why are you being so hard on yourself? And I was like, wait, what? Oh, I guess I am maybe being a little hard on myself. So it is funny when we think we, have something kind of figured out, and then we get a mirror, kindly reflected back to us, and then realize, oh yeah, we still have more work to do in that domain.
Yeah, for me, I think I know it's definitely environment, and that means that's everything. That's every touch point of that. So that's the people I'm surrounded by. That's the physical space I'm in. So all of that stuff, and so I put a lot of time into my kids, because that's what I find the most joy in, my wife, right? And so, I do like hanging out with my friends occasionally, but I love hanging with my kids more and my wife more, right? So, and also being an entrepreneur allows you to have autonomy over that. And so not everyone has that luxury. I understand that. And so it doesn't mean that you have to leave that job that you don't want to do, but let's find you something else to fill that time. Because for me, the weekends are tough sometimes because relaxing is not relaxing for me. And my wife just wants let's just relax. And so I'm like, that's stressful to me when I can't do stuff, right? So
yes, I very much relate to that. It's funny because I would often think back to just being younger. I'm like, I feel like I used to be really good at like the relaxing. In my adult life, I'm like, I don't know what happened to that skill or that ability. Like, but doing nothing, as lovely as it sounds in theory, when I'm actually doing nothing, I like feel so restless that it's just like,
yeah,
I find it relaxing to take care of house projects. Like, I finally got this thing done. Oh, I finally got the hose brought in December. I just suggested that this weekend. We had a warm December day in Chicago. And like every year, I'm like, all right, October is when I'm going to do it. But October was warm, and it's so hard to imagine it being cold again when you're sitting in warmer weather. So it's like getting those things done, I find very grounding. So I can relate to that idea of just doing nothing. It's hard.
Well, it's funny you talk about the hose, because where I am, it's snow. It's frozen, and my hose is outside hanging in the snow. I'm like, that hose is gone.
Yeah,
it's gonna bust.
I have replaced so many hoses and spray nozzles because I didn't bring them. It's like, ugh, yeah. Okay, so right now you're the current sort of business that you're focusing on with your partner is what? Talk about that. It's like a matching resources.
Yeah, somewhat. I guess that's probably how you could look at it. Really, what it is using data science and AI learning to connect people to the right resources and information. So the tyranny of choice, right? So when there's too many options, it's overwhelming.
Yes.
And if we can narrow those down, those options, you still have autonomy. You still, we still need to be able to have our choices. But when you have too many, really have no options at all. So the platform is to help entrepreneurs really narrow down those options and point them in the right direction, and also the way that they learn, because not everyone can take a stack of reading material and read through that. And even if they can, like, I know for me, I will never get to it. And I'll say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Even an article, an email, like, I won't read those. But if it's audio or podcasts or things like that, like, I'll absorb that stuff insanely well, right? So for me, it's kind of an educational tool as well, because we want to give people the opportunity to learn and retain information the way that they do it best.
And for you, what was the spark for this idea? Like, what need did you see?
So back to Met School, the students were getting placed into businesses, but the school was having trouble finding spots for them. And so sometimes a student would have to go to maybe a business that maybe wasn't really their top choice because there wasn't as many options. And so really understanding, how could I connect to entrepreneurs and then connect them to these students? So that was how this kind of started. But as I was doing this, I was like, there's so much information out there. Where do I start? Where do I go? And every business I've ever started has been from scratch, right? For the most part. Little Pizza Heaven was a business that was kind of existing, but for the most part, everything was new. And so I really had to learn, and I had other people with me, so it wasn't always me. But now with AI and all that information, it's how do we absorb that? And so that brought me into talking to entrepreneurs, talking to business networks. And there was a need for something that wasn't a one-size-fits-all solution, and that could help even the people supporting entrepreneurs to spend more time with that entrepreneur rather than trying to find the right stuff for them or giving them kind of a cookie cutter thing. And they were like, well, I don't even know if they're even using this stuff because I'm just giving it to them and that's it, right?
So let's take one more quick break, and I want to dive in a little bit deeper to this idea of the tyranny of choice, because I love that phrase, and I want to kind of just expand.
I didn't make it up, but
hey, it's are there ever actually any original ideas, or just like taking ideas and adding our own flavor to it? So we'll be right back after this break. All right, it is time for our favorite part of this show, for the ad for a product or service that doesn't really exist, but we kind of wish did. Introducing Holiday Havoc De-Stress Grenades. Feel like you're about to explode from holiday stress? Ready to deck the halls or someone's face? Hold on to your Santa hats, because Holiday Havoc De-Stress Grenades are here to save your sanity in the most explosively satisfying way. These aren't your grandma's stress balls. Shaped like mini grenades, each Holiday Havoc De-Stress Grenade is designed to handle the most intense festive frustrations. Squeeze one when the holiday cheer feels more like holiday chaos, and watch your stress detonate into oblivion. But wait, it gets better. Each grenade emits a sarcastic remark or a cheeky joke when squeezed. Perfect for those moments when you're one ugly sweater comment away from losing it. Picture this. You're about to snap, but then your de-stress grenade quips, "At least this isn't as bad as Aunt Martha's fruitcake." And for the ultimate stress relief, we've infused these grenades with the scent of rebellion. A pint of blend, a burning Yule log, and a whiff of spiked eggnog. One sniff and you'll feel like you're leading a holiday revolt, minus the pitchforks. Each set comes with a range of sizes, from annoying elf to Santa's gone rogue. Plus, we've included a holiday war zone door sign to signal to anyone else that tries to enter your quiet space that you are in a serious de-stress mode. Holiday Havoc De-Stress Grenades, because sometimes the holidays aren't just merry and bright, they're downright combustible. Disclaimer, please don't actually throw these at your relatives. We are not liable for any dinner table incidents. We're pretty sure you can handle that all on your own. Okay, clearly this isn't real, but you know what is real? The support and community that you can get here at ADHD. reWired. Whether it's listening and sharing this podcast, joining our free Facebook community, which you can get to at our website at adhdrewired.com, click on the community tab, and there's a application there that you could apply, because we do screen everyone before letting them in. Or you can join our adult study hall membership community for some co-working. We have both structured, scheduled sessions throughout the week, as well as a 24/7 room that you can co-work with us any time of day. We also have our Patreon community, where you could actually be listening to episodes ad-free. Well, the ads are at the very end of the episode, so you can get the whole experience without interruptions. And of course, there's our coaching groups, which you can learn more about at coachingrewired.com. ADHD Rewired really is all about community. Now, you've been listening to the podcast maybe for a while. Maybe you've read a bunch of books, tried to learn all the things that you can, and yet you might find that you're still struggling. You can keep doing what you're doing, or you can take your life and your ADHD management seriously and invest in your growth. Come grow with us through any one of our community-based programs, and why not get the new year off to a good start by joining our upcoming season of coaching groups. Oh, hey, and just a real quick friendly request. This Friday, the 29th, it is my birthday. I'll be 43. And I think I ask for this from listeners every year or on my birthday. And that is to either leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or any podcast app that accepts reviews, or consider becoming a patron. I hope you are all having a somewhat restful, semi-relaxing holiday, because you do deserve to put you first. So whatever you are celebrating, I wish you the very best and a very Happy New Year. All right, back to the episode. All right, we are back. So you've been trying to use now AI to help entrepreneurs synthesize kind of the things that they need to do, or connect with resources to help them take next steps. Like, help me kind of flesh this out a little bit more and how this relates to this idea of the tyranny of choice.
Yeah, so this is, we're still in development stage of this, but the tyranny of choice was, again, not something that I thought up. This is a phrase that there's another term for it, but it originated from, there's probably originated somewhere else, but there's a study that was done where they had 25 jams, and they had at a market trying to sell these jams, all different flavors. And then the next day they had, I think, 5 jams. The 5 jams sold 10 times more than the other jams, because people were, what if I choose the wrong one? Which flavor should I choose? We all have this problem with Netflix, right? We can never find something because there's too many, right? And so that's what happens with entrepreneurs, and they get overwhelmed. And especially if you're not that tech savvy, or you're not an extrovert, or what networking events do you go to, right? And so I know my wife, and by the way, my wife works really hard. And so talking about how she wants to take those breaks, she does work very, very hard. But she was asking about networking events. And so really just kind of understanding there's 1,000 of them out there, just go to one, right? But until she kind of saw, okay, here's the 4 that best fit me. She started going to all of them, and now she goes to networking events like crazy, and she's doing amazing. So
like, what are some? I started my business. I don't know. Well, I started ADHD Rewired 10 years ago, but I started my clinical practice, which I since closed, like 14 or 15 years ago. And I've often think back to, like, how did I figure out all the things I needed to do to, like, get it off the ground? And, like, it seems so. I did it. And it seems so daunting. I'm like, and probably if I would have known all the things that I now know, like, would I do it again? Like, I'd like to think yes, but I'd also think that I would get overwhelmed knowing how much action needed to happen. So it was almost like this blessing to, like, not know what was involved in starting a business.
That's 100% how it is for me, because especially opening, that's why I think every new business I start is almost completely different. Because I think that dopamine starts firing when I'm like, okay, this is new. How do I figure it out? And I think if somebody showed me how to do it, I probably wouldn't do it. I wouldn't want to do it, because I'd rather fail doing it myself than succeed having somebody else tell me to do it, right? Which is crazy to think, but but that's how our brains work, right?
I think it's how we also learn best. You know, what's that? That there's this expression around ADHD that we tend to be very experiential learners. The only problem is that we don't always learn from our experiences.
No, because you forget about it. You forget what went wrong, right?
Right. It's like, well, that didn't work. Well, let me just try it one more time just to make sure. It's like, and then all the people around you will tell you that, see, we told you, like, well, yeah, but I didn't understand what you were saying. I needed to do it myself in order to kind of like go, oh, that's what you meant.
Yeah, but what comes out of those things can be amazing, right? If every time I do this, it is a new experience, and I do learn something new, even if I forgot, and it's something's ingrained in my head now. But everything is like, I can't look back and say, oh, that sucked because I failed. I'm like, that led me to this and this and this, and in no means do I consider myself financially like living in mansions or anything like that, but that's where I kind of remove money from these decisions. For the most part, I do need to think, okay, this has to make money. But if it makes money and it doesn't excite me, I don't care how much money it's going to make me. I probably won't do it. Right. So I just want to do things that are creating change. Right. And also exciting me.
Is there a certain thing that when you're looking at an opportunity that you say, yes, this is something I want to pursue? Or do you have like a holding period if you get excited about something? Like, how do you approach like new ideas?
Well, I guess a holding period is relative, right? Because is a minute long enough, or is an hour, right? Or is 2 months, right? And I think that's also a bit of a fear, right? If I wait too long, I will lose the ability to be excited about it and do it. So a lot of these things, I just have to jump on them right away and start doing them. But I think at some point, I'm going to need a team that is going to, okay, here we go. Now you take it, right? And those people are hard to find, because if you're finding people that are like you, well, they're not going to be able to take it. So I've been lucky enough to find some people that enjoy taking the ideas and running with it. So I think everyone needs the yin and the yang, right?
Absolutely. What was it? The what's that book? It's the Entrepreneur Operating something. Like what I talk about, there's the visionary and then the implementer.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm referring to?
I haven't heard the book, but I know the term. There's
EOS.
There's visionaries, and then there's the doers, right?
And they're both equally important. They just serve very different roles.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah,
as you are building companies and building teams, you're dealing also with lots of people. And now we kind of briefly touched on this, but like the relationship piece of all the business stuff, like how do you do with that?
From a business standpoint or personal?
Yes.
You say both. Okay.
Yes.
Well, from a business standpoint, that's one thing that I realize is I'm a terrible manager. I'm terrible. My wife is amazing. So what she does, how do you do that? Like how she's a very kind person, for one, but she also allows people to do the things that they do best. And she's built really great teams and is a leader, right? And so I have to learn how to like step aside, right? Sometimes, because when you're right there and you're kind of bulldozing over people, it's like, nope, she's got it, right? I don't need to jump in and do this. And I'm very proud of her, for one, but then from a personal side, back to my wife again, I think it's understanding myself is the key. And I'm still learning more about that and still have a long way to go. But I think talking to her about it too, as much as I know I probably talk about it too much, for me, it's like, this is why I'm doing it. Not an excuse, it's explanation. I will work on it. And apologizing when I make those mistakes. I apologize a lot. in a necessary apologies, not the sorry for interrupting apologies, right? The sorry for losing my temper or something, right? So
how long have you been married for?
I should say we're actually getting married. So I call her my wife, but we've been together for quite some time. We've lived together for a while and have
Well,
a 3-year-old
quite
and a
some
5-year-old.
time and a while. These are all relative terms. How long have you been together?
Well, I'm gonna probably mess this up. So I don't because we've known each other for over 12 years.
Okay.
And so there's been some on and some back and forth.
Okay.
But once, I realized that she was the perfect person for me, and I needed to understand that. We settled into the relationship. But we've been, yeah, I would say our son's 5 now. So 8 years we've been together, and 12 years we've known each other. So you're gonna get me in trouble if she listens to this that I didn't get that right. But we're getting married February 28th, so I do know that.
Well, if you haven't gotten your rings yet, may I suggest that you engrave the actual anniversary date inside the ring so you don't forget?
Good job. Yeah, and we did get the rings, but yeah, so that's a good idea.
So let me ask this, because I know that it is, I think, fairly rare for romantic partners to also do well as business partners. What has been your secret so far?
It was not easy at first, and I think she's also worked for me for many years before, and then it almost flipped where now I work for her for free most of the time, but I do work for her, helping her with her store and stuff like that. And I really had to say, yeah, I don't need to step in because she's got this, right? And I'm really proud of her. So I think it's also respect. I respect her, and I hope she respects me. And it's just learning how to manage this, and understanding self is the key. The more I learn about myself, and also just looking at, like, why did I do that? Why when she tells me to take out the garbage and I'm in the middle of it, I don't want to take out the garbage anymore. But that's a trait of ADHD, right? So, this isn't my personality. And so I'm able to manage this a lot better. And I've really fallen in love with her over again. So it's great.
I'm sensing that you might be someone who doesn't get very defensive about stuff. Is that
the complete opposite?
Okay. All right. Huh.
Very defensive. Yeah. Which is a problem in the relationship side I think she understands it. I will get defensive and then realize, oh, wait, I know what I'm doing here. And I think she sees it too. So communication is key.
And that's what I was I think picking up on, is that you own your stuff.
Yeah.
Versus just not wanting to talk about it and just kick it down the road and just, so having those hard conversations sounds like it's been a really important part of the dynamic in that relationship.
It is. And I think I also have to understand that when she knew me before, I didn't know I had this disorder. And there's things that completely changed once this happened. So she has to deal with those things, which is, hard for her. So I'm understanding that there's challenges, but I think we both care about each other a lot. And we're learning each other. I think I'm closer to her now than I've ever been. So
that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So looking ahead for the next year, what are you most excited about?
Well, yeah, I think that's a long ways away from me. I'm looking about tomorrow, right? So it is getting this platform up and running and being able to really just have these conversations with people and having them recognize that, there's nothing wrong with them. You're just in the wrong environment, right? Or you just haven't found your passion or your purpose yet. And not everyone will. It's not saying, like, if you enjoy getting up every day. I get up super early now because I'm like, I want to get to work, right? And so it's still hard to manage. I have my clock and things like that. But yeah, and always changing. Routine's tough for us, right? But I realize that if I change up the routine, then I can keep the routine. So that's, I always change my desk up. I change my environment constantly because I have to listen to music and get, do I have to do a boring task? Well, let's do I got a little bike behind me. I do some vigorous exercise. It's weird. Like you can't really do that in a public office necessarily, but we should change that perception that people could do push-ups, jump around and get that dopamine going before a task, even like a board meeting, a boring board meeting, right?
Yeah, and you've mentioned this idea of how sort of sensitive you are to the environment. I think that's such an important point to highlight that, when we look at all the different sort of strategies around managing our lives with ADHD, environmental modification, like setting up our environment to work for us, is huge. I saw a graphic before that showed like the 80-20, like 80% is setting up your environment to work for you and 20% is learning skills.
I
Like
agree.
that's huge, right?
Yeah.
It's like, because people
Yeah.
think, oh, hey, I don't know how to do any of these things. It's like, okay, like the good news is the know-how, that's the easy part. Then it's how do we set up the environment to actually execute on the know-how?
Mhm. And it's different for everyone, right? So if I'm telling someone, oh, you have ADHD, here's how you should set it up, that's not gonna, like, me and my sister both have the ADHD, but we're completely different, right? And so the things that work for me will not work for her and vice versa. So
how do you manage like your calendar and your tasks?
I use Motion AI actually, which is Motion
Yeah.
AI, I think.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I use that, which is
Not Notion, but Motion.
Motion. Yeah.
With an M.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it has, because I have a million email addresses and events. So it's managing my calendar, but also my tasks. So I'm notorious for missing a task. I'll do that later. I'll do that later. It'll move it. It'll keep moving it. But which then I get in the thing of, oh, it'll move it. So I'll just do it later. So I'm still learning those things. But the Pomodoro technique has been key for me in, trying to do those 25-minute tasks and making sure, because I can see this red line moving, right? And so I won't get distracted as much because I know I only have this time. And I also do this with my kids because they don't know what 5 minutes is. They don't know what 20 minutes is. But now we use this clock and it's like, now my son so he gets screen time. I say you get 50 minutes of screen time and then you have to do 10 minutes of something else. And then you can go back to the screen time. And what's cool about it is he sets it, he goes and he'll do something for 10 minutes, but enjoy that. And he won't go back to screen time. So it's
Nice.
That's like parenting.
So are you using that the time timer?
I use like this timer. Yeah.
Cool.
They have their own. We have like 5 of these things in the house because our kids use them and they actually they put it to 15 minutes.
Those visual
and they
timers
if
are
I
great.
told them, yeah, you have 5 minutes to get ready, that could be an hour to them. Right. So we just put that there and yeah.
All right. So we are kind of nearing the end here. I know we touched on a lot of different topics today. What do you want to leave listeners with?
You know what? I think I want to leave it with maybe another little story. And I think it goes back to my kids and how my kids have probably taught me more than anything. The one thing that has been really, really cool is I'm 46 now, 45 at the time. And I did not know that feelings and emotions were 2 separate things. I always thought that they were the same thing. And as I was trying to teach my kids, I got these books called A Little Spot of Anger by Diane Albert. And it was talking about you can't really control a feeling, but you can control an emotion. And that's where we kind of came up with the Blue Your Stack thing. And so my son can do something that just drives me crazy. And it's really nothing. And there's other times when, I lose it because he's dropped a pencil, right? And so that's me. That's all on me. And if I ever do that, it's immediate that, dad lost his cool, sorry. And they feel safe around me, right? And that's might not have happened if I didn't learn my emotions, how to manage those, right? So I learned that from a little book, which was interesting. And my kids, right? My kids taught me more than anyone in life. So
Isn't that the thing? That our kids, if we allow them to be, really can be our biggest teachers, even though they don't even realize it. It's because we tend to see the things that we maybe don't love about ourselves in our kids, and it definitely causes stuff to get stirred up. But I think it sounds like what you are doing, especially the way you're modeling sort of those repair components, which is so important in the relationships, is awesome.
Thank you.
So you got a lot of kind of irons in the fire now, and you got a bride to be, still kind of a new dad. I mean, because only 3 and 5, you
Yeah.
said, and a new ADHD diagnosis. So, any thoughts on what your next business is going to be after this one succeeds and you sell it and all that kind of stuff?
Well, we're starting another a location called Pop, which is a collab space for local makers and artisans to get mentored through running their own retail space. And in the same spot, it's workshops and things like that. So giving a space for entrepreneurs. So everything I'm doing now kind of weaves into each other. And that's, I guess, what I'm looking at is, does this fall in line with the big picture? Because I don't want to just look at the big picture. I want to pull in all these things. And if, okay, yeah, that checks the box, let's see how that's going to work in here. So
Sounds like you're it's so much interconnectedness. And I think that's so common with ADHD, is that we do kind of connect things that sometimes don't at first seem super obvious on how it's connected. But I find that a lot of us with ADHD are good integrators. And it sounds like that's a big part of what you're doing, is you're integrating these different ideas. You're looking at things that you currently have and seeing, all right, there's also a need over here. Just sounds fun. As long as you're managing the task list.
yeah, well, I tell people that in my mind, those detective shows, when they have the pins and the red strings, that's what's in my head all the time. And it's like, okay, that's going here, that's going there. And so I always think that's everyone's head. That's how everyone sees things. And they're like, that's not how it is. That's why a lot of detectives probably have ADHD and they're good at what they do, right? You're able to see things that other people can't.
Today we were talking to Donavan Robinson. If you can share, is there any contact information that you'd like to share? Any website stuff that you got? This is your time to share what you'd like to share on how people can reach out to you if you want.
Yeah, my company, Join Connect, it's JOINKONEKT.com. And that's where a lot of my entrepreneurship stuff is. And also, I also do a podcast. I'm starting a new podcast focusing on entrepreneurs and talking to them, just hearing their story, because that's what I want to do. So it'd be pretty cool. So that's launching in the new year. So
awesome. All right. Well, we'll get a link to that in this episode's show notes. Donavan, thank you so much for spending the almost an hour with us here. This was a delight, and there's some really cool stuff going on. So I wish you the best of success going forward.
Thank you. This has been great.
Thanks so much.